Hello and welcome, everybody. My name is Daniel Myers here, developer relations here at Snowflake. And today I am really excited because we're going to be talking all about Snowflake native notebooks. And with me is product manager Aileen, who has worked end to end on this brand new launch. How are you today?
Hi, Daniel. I'm doing great, and I'm super excited to be here on the live stream. First time doing it, but I'm super excited to be talking about Snowflake Notebooks.
I love it. I love it. And so for all of our audience members here today, this is completely, totally live. And so we will be answering questions live as well. So please participate. Feel free to ask your questions in the live chat. We have producers in the background that are helping to reach out with different questions and answers. And we will be answering some of these live on stream as well. Now, to kick this off, I want to get a better understanding actually of the audience members here today. So please post in chat or hit the like button if you are an admin of any kind on Snowflake today. Do a thumbs up if you're an admin, or say it in chat. Also, do the same or do a different message if you are a data scientist that uses Snowflake today. So if you use notebooks at all on Snowflake or off of Snowflake, post in chat that how and tell us a little bit about how you use your notebooks today and what do you use them for. So as more and more people start to do that, I also want to just ask you, Aileen, a little bit about Snowflake Notebooks themselves. What makes Snowflake Notebooks different? Why use a Snowflake notebook over another type of notebook?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel, for the question. We are definitely, I'm on the notebooks team, right? We're very super excited to unveil this product. I think what makes Snowflake Notebooks really unique is the fact that it is directly inside Snowflake. So for a lot of our customers, what we saw is that previously, right, their teams do have the need for an interactive kind of development environment where they can write SQL, write Python, do a lot of different things, right? Maybe import a Python package to support their development flows. But they would do it somewhere else. So the problem with that is we see a lot of customers actually set up a notebook environment outside of Snowflake, import or export data out of Snowflake, port it over to that second environment, but you need to do all of your infrastructure management, setup, provisioning there. For the data scientists actually using notebooks outside Snowflake, right? Sometimes they need to go to their admin to make sure that they get the right compute resources, that they get the right permissions. And for our customers, it's just not a very efficient and very secure way of doing things because you end up with maybe even 2 copies of the same data, you're moving data around, and you most often end up paying for two systems and managing 2 systems. So we really wanted to bring this whole flow, this whole kind of ways of collaborating with your team directly into Snowflake. So you can just log into Snowflake. You don't need to worry about data movement. You don't need to worry about setting it up or managing a separate set of permissions or infrastructure. You just focus on your work. So this is what we really want to enable our users to do here. Yeah.
That's awesome. So to really kind of summarize that into kind of one sentence, it's a combination of you get the Snowflake native experience. You don't have to move your data around because now you're bringing the notebook to Snowflake rather than the data to the notebook, wherever you may be running that. Yeah. And you get to use kind of your existing permissions models, right? So the notebook itself just looks like any other Snowflake object.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome. I love hearing that. And so just to give our audience a bit more of a mental picture of what a Snowflake notebook even looks like or feels like. Can you show us a little bit of, some of your favorite aspects of a Snowflake? Share your screen and kind of show us some of your favorite aspects of a Snowflake.
For sure, would love to. I have a couple of notebooks here, maybe, yeah. Okay, so you guys should be able to see my screen. Here is the notebooks interface, and as you can see, for people, I guess, who have used a notebook, right, outside of Snowflake before, this should feel pretty familiar. You have different like cells in here. You can add cells anywhere in the notebook, and we do support 3 types of cells: Python, SQL, and Markdown. So if you select a Python cell, you directly, or either way, Python or SQL, you directly start typing in your Python or SQL language. You don't really need a magic command to say, hey, this is a SQL cell, because you can tell that this is SQL, Python, or Markdown right here. And then on the right-hand side of the page, we've got this mini map here, and you can jump to any of the cells down below. You can use this mini map to kind of like navigate throughout your notebook. You can also rename these cells. So for example, I can rename it here, and then the same cell name will show up in the mini map. So this helps you organize your cells a little bit better. And as you can see in this example, I started off with some import statements to make sure that I have my libraries ready. And here I just started off with a SQL cell. I get the results back, but then I can convert it into a pandas data frame here using the 2 pandas syntax here. So now I get back this df, this data frame, as a pandas data frame. So it's really easy to not only add Python SQL cells, but you can also interchange between the 2 languages, which I think is very, very powerful, very, very easy to use. And down here, I have a alter chart. So you can use matplotlib, alter, seaborn, all of those packages you can find in this packages picker. So I already have, right, matplotlib installed, but if you need something else, let's say seaborn, you can search for it here. Actually down here, let's just show you what the kind of like an error experience looks like. So if something goes wrong in your notebook, we'll let you know that there's something wrong. For example, here, this particular package has not been installed, and we tell you that, hey, this is how you can find additional packages that you'd like to install here. Yeah, so this is kind of like a very basic overview of what our notebooks look like. But I know that we can talk maybe a little bit more about notebooks later.
I love it. So, I mean, in seeing it this way, I think gives me, but also everybody else, like a really good mental model of, it's incredibly easy to add new packages, right? It's just, it's literally a drop down.
Yeah.
And it comes out of the box with a bunch of packages available. The ability to run SQL, Markdown, Python, all kind of seamlessly together is pretty amazing. And I love the fact that you showed that you can reference the return, the results of a SQL statement in the subsequent Python cell. So that's pretty cool. My understanding too is that you can run, being that this is a full Python environment, you can run Streamlit apps inside as different cells. So you can have the sliders and the interactivity of Streamlit directly in your notebook as well.
Yeah, so here is an example of how you can incorporate Streamlit components in here. So you can use the sliders. I think because in this notebook, I didn't have the library installed, and here is another error that I don't have the privileges to operate on this particular schema. But if I did, then like sliding or using the Streamlit sliders will totally work in this notebook. So this is actually a good reminder, right? Like when you are in a notebook, you're using your own privileges to run the queries. Which means that if you're querying sensitive data, maybe some of the data are masked by certain row level or column level masking policies, those would be honored as you query the data. You can pass your notebook to someone else, but they would be using their own privileges to run the queries. So everything is super secure in the Snowflake notebook environment.
And that is an amazing call out that I think not enough people really, instantly clicks for them when running a Snowflake native notebook is the fact, like, one is the error messages that you get are by design built and shown and displayed in a way that makes it easy to show, hey, you're missing the package. To select it, you select the drop down, or two, permissions errors that show you, hey, this is what you're missing, or this is what you have. And the fact that, going back to like the why Snowflake notebooks is, you don't have to change your data permissions. So you're naturally and automatically leveraging the existing permissions that you have in Snowflake when running these notebooks. That's a really important, I think, often overlooked aspect of kind of sharing notebooks that are not native to Snowflake, and like, have sharing credentials or things like that sometimes, if you're not running it directly in Snowflake, is harder to do. So, yeah.
I would also like to call out, since I have this cell on the screen, so just to really want to emphasize this like kind of turnkey, right, access to your data, since your data is already in Snowflake, so accessing it is super easy. If I know that a lot of people use Snowpark, here is just an example of how you establish a Snowpark session. Super easy because the Snowpark library is actually pre-installed in your notebook. So every notebook that you create, it will have the Snowpark comes with it already. So you just need to do, session equals get active session. And then you can leverage all of your session basically Snowpark APIs in your notebook. As you can see down here, I have session.write pandas, and I think here, session.table. So you can do all of your Snowpark APIs without, authenticating to your notebook database and all of that outside of Snowflake, because this is all, like Daniel said, right? It's all in here. Yeah.
So awesome. So what I want to get into next is, so one of the big things that we want to talk about here is just how to actually set up these notebooks in your, in any of the audience that's watching us today. How do we set it up for them to use in their Snowflake accounts today? So one of the things I'm sharing on my screen here now is the docs page that everybody should go and look at, right? So this is the docs page of literally how to set up and get started with Snowflake notebooks, how to enable them inside of your own account today. Yeah. And so why don't you, talk me through a little bit of just how to actually enable this inside of your own Snowflake account.
Yeah, so Snowflake Notebooks, I think, Daniel, you have mentioned it at the beginning of the live stream. They are native Snowflake objects. So they're first-class citizens in the Snowflake system, meaning that they are these objects that live in a database in a schema. So think of them as like your tables, your views, and other objects that live in a schema. To have the access to create a notebook, you do need certain privileges, right? And this is also to make sure that, admins have the right control in places to make sure that who has the privileges to create and use notebooks. So for creation, the notebooks do need to be created, and they will be stored in this particular database.schema kind of like location that you choose. And for the schema, on the schema level, you do need the usage privilege, which I think if you have access to schema, you should, for most people, they should already have the usage privilege. And then you'll also need the create notebook privilege on the schema. So this is to make sure that you can create a notebook in this particular location. And once the notebook is created, you can still, like in the notebook itself, right in the cells, you can still query data across databases and schemas. This particular schema really is just for organizational purposes. This is where your notebooks are located. But as long as you have the privileges to query the data, you can totally do, use database, use schema in a notebook cell, and then you can start querying just like you would do in a worksheet, basically. For the notebook to run, we also need compute power. So this is where you'll need a grant or be granted the access to a warehouse. I'm sure if you're already using Snowflake, you have access to some warehouse already. But if not, then maybe ask your admin to grant the usage privilege on a warehouse to your role. This is, I guess, another important aspect is everything is role-based, just like how any other object in Snowflake operates. So as long as your role has access to the previously mentioned privileges on the schema and the usage privilege on the warehouse, you will be able to create a notebook in the warehouse runtime, basically. Yeah. And on the screen, I see that we have the template or a kind of like a recommended script for people to run. Yeah, we can totally you can totally reference this script and adjust. Like right now we have the public role, but if you want to restrict the access to a certain role, you can change that role name.
Very cool. That's awesome. And so tell me a little bit about, the differences in runtime environments. So, we have the, container runtime, we have warehouse runtime. Tell me, the differences between those two and when you would use one over the other.
Yeah, that's a great question. So to set the stage, warehouse runtime is generally available on all three clouds. Container runtime is still in the preview stage, so some of you might not have access to it. But the main difference between the two runtimes is that the warehouse runtime, you can think of it as the easiest and fastest way for you to get started, just because everyone should have access to some kind of warehouse. You can use it to run your notebooks directly. For container runtime, it's going to be a more powerful, more flexible kind of environment. Underneath, we do offer these different types of compute pools, CPU-based, GPU-based virtual machines that you can select from to provide the compute power for these container notebooks. On the container runtime side, we also support things like pip install, so you can install packages that are like from any sort of like external endpoint, as long as you have the right permission set up to visit the external endpoints. So it is better suited for data science and machine learning workloads where you do need, access to maybe some of the packages that are very new, because we know in that community, it's a very fast evolving kind of community, and you can use the pip commands, the Linux kind of commands to kind of go into your container environment and do more things there.
Very cool. And so to kind of summarize that, the warehouse runtime is all things packaged together for you. It's the simplest, fastest way to get started with running notebooks today. And you get the Snowflake Anaconda environment. So anything that's in there by default, you get to run by default. Super fast, super easy. And then with container runtime, it's anything goes, fully custom. It's running in a container. You want to run, GPU accelerated hardware, go for it. You want to bring your own custom packages that you've developed yourself that aren't even, somewhere else, go for it. It's a container. Go, you can go wild. And so the differences here are both in simplicity, but also capability. Container runtime is more open. You can run whatever you want. Have varying levels of types of compute, from GPUs to CPUs and others, and package management is different. So that's awesome. Lastly, tell me a little bit about external access, right? So you talked about it a little bit just now, but go into a little bit more detail on kind of why I would assume a lot of data scientists and folks that are using notebooks locally have never needed to set up network access rules to run their notebook, right? So why do they need to do that now with a Snowflake native notebook? What's the purpose of that?
Yeah, I think at Snowflake, we really, really value security and governance. And the whole kind of point of running your workloads inside of Snowflake notebooks is, like we said, right? It's directly in Snowflake. So we want to make sure that everything runs within the Snowflake kind of security and governance boundaries. That being said, we also understand the need to go outside of just the Snowflake periphery and get access to, data sets, models, and anything else that you might need. So by creating this external access integration object, we kind of strike a balance there. It has to be set up by the account admin or a role that has the privilege of creating such an external access integration objects. But once created and granted to a specific role, and let's say your role has access to a specific external access integration, then we know that your account admin knows that you have the right permissions to visit specific external endpoints. So that can be your PyPy repo, that can be Hugging Face, that can be any other endpoints that you would like to visit. So we do provide that flexibility, but also want to make sure that it is rightly governed by account admin. Yeah.
I love that explanation. I think, to reiterate on that, right? A core tenet of Snowflake is who has access to the data, who can modify the data, who can query the data. Like, data is at its core what Snowflake is all about. And so the ability to have external network access, by calling an API somewhere, you are inherently sharing data to that API endpoint. Yes. Whether or not you're grabbing data from it or giving data to it to return something, you are sharing data. And so because of that, it is Snowflake's position that you need to have governed access to network access to who can call an API endpoint, right, from their account. And so it's that is why these network access rules exist, and why it's so important to manage them for these notebook users.
Yeah, I would also like to call out, that's a great summary, Daniel. I would also like to call out that there is a lot of flexibility in terms of how you create these external access integrations, because it's actually two layers. I'm not sure if we can queue up the documentation again, but basically you need to create the network rules first, and then create the external access integration object out of that. But in the second step, right, you can kind of mix and match. Let's say I know that Daniel is using the data scientist role, and I would like to give Daniel access to 5 different external endpoints, right? You can kind of like put all the 5 network access objects under the same external, So yes, so create a network rule. You can create the rules here, defining the value list or like the domains there. And then when you create that external access integration, you can say allow network rules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in that final step of grant usage on the integration, you just grant that single external access integration to the data scientist role that Daniel is going to use, but he will have access to whatever, or like, let's say the 5 different network rules that you have created. Yeah.
Awesome. So, so with this now, another call out just for everybody watching, right? Go to this docs page right now. This is the how to set up Snowflake Notebooks in your account today. This gives you that full script here to set all of this up. You can directly copy and paste it into your account. It even goes over how to create that custom role if you want to do custom roles for accessing and running these notebooks. And what's cool too about this is that having these custom roles means you can have some users that have the ability to create notebooks and edit them, and other users that can only run them. So that's pretty cool. And so with that, let's go to the audience with some questions. Let me know if there's any questions. So we look like we already have some. Is there any document on how to use Snowflake Notebooks and deploy Snowflake ML feature stores from dev to prod using CI/CD?
Yeah, I think we actually might have a in our public GitHub repo. I think we have a couple of examples of using notebooks in tandem with ML and feature store.
So yes, and I have it up out on my screen actually. So these are we have a fully open source repository on Snowflake Labs on GitHub called Snowflake Demo Notebooks, and we have a large and ever-growing list of demos that go over all sorts of use cases. And if you scroll down, we have some machine learning ones. That use all sorts of end-to-end ML and different aspects of our ML features in Snowflake within Snowflake Notebook. So even things like Cortex and stuff like that. So definitely take a look at this large list of demos. Many of them have video walkthroughs as well. So you can actually go through and watch the video of somebody going through and running the notebook and checking it out. So it's a great question. So as as we wait for more questions to come in, a question I have for you, Aileen, is what is kind of your favorite app? Being the product manager, I'm sure you have some keen insight into kind of what your favorite aspect is of Snowflake Notebooks, and tell me a little bit about from your personal side, like what is your favorite part of Snowflake Notebooks?
Yeah, I think outside of what we have already talked about, right? Definitely, it's just so easy to use Snowflake Notebooks. It's like right there, you log into Snowflake and you navigate to the notebooks page. You click a button, you create a notebook. It's as easy as that. The other thing that I really like about notebooks is that you can schedule them to run. So we definitely know a lot of people have the use cases of, hey, I have maybe developed a model or maybe I have some data transformation stuff that I want to run every day or every week, whatever that cadence is, you can click a button. So it's in the top right corner of your notebook screen. You can click a button and then schedule it to run. You don't need to come into your notebook every day, but that is a really good way, I guess, to automate report generation or model running or data transformation, ingestion, those kind of things. And you can even call the notebook via a different orchestration tool. So I just like how Notebooks is very flexible and suits a very diverse kind of range of needs.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with the whole scheduling aspect. I mean, what's really cool about that is, you can use that within, kind of different automations, right? Like and be able to inspect like visually what's happening inside the notebook and then, debug it. You get this nice kind of development environment of a notebook, and then you can schedule it, for your various automations, ingestions, if you want, transformations, all sorts of stuff. So that's pretty cool. And looks like we have another question come in. When I run notebooks, other than altering the warehouse size, is it better to run another Snowpark optimized warehouse or run it on the container instead of the warehouse itself?
Yeah, this is a great question. You want me to take it, Daniel? Yeah. So inside of the notebook, so yes, the notebook engine kind of needs to run on a warehouse or on a compute pool, right? If you're running on the container runtime, and that's assuming you already have access to the container runtime option, which is great. So both, I guess, Snowpark optimized warehouse and container compute pools have the advantage of having a lot more memory than a regular warehouse. So if you are running workloads that need a lot of memory, then altering the warehouse size, if you're just using a regular warehouse, even if you use an extra large warehouse, that's not gonna give you a lot of memory. So in that case, I would go for a Snowpark optimized warehouse or a container. That being said, when you do your SQL queries, for example, inside of your notebook or any kind of Snowpark pushdown queries, you could use a different warehouse. This is another aspect of flexibility that we provide with Snowflake Notebooks. So inside any SQL cell, if you just type or run the command, use warehouse name, run that command, all of your SQL queries and Snowpark pushdown queries in this particular notebook session would be pushed down to that particular warehouse. So you can keep your notebook itself running on the optimized warehouse or on the container, but you still have the flexibility of choosing a different warehouse that best suits your querying needs for optimized compute, but also for like a balanced kind of like cost versus performance. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love that. So I know we are almost at time. So any last questions from the audience here? Well, fantastic. I want to say a big thank you to everybody tuning in today. This has been all about Snowflake native notebooks and how to run them in your account, how to get started. As a final call out, again, check out that docs page on how to enable notebooks in your own Snowflake account today as an admin. So with that, big thank you. See you next time.
Thank you so much, everyone.